Good day, everybody. You're welcome to this very important webinar. The title of the webinar is The Future of Work, Acquiring the Relevant Skill Sets for the New Normal. Now, you want to ask yourself, what is the new normal, and then what is important about this conversation? There is a narrative that from the World Bank that the year 2030, 8 out of 9 extremely poor persons are going to be coming out of sub-Saharan Africa. Now, we also know that there are new technologies, there are disruptions going on, emerging technologies. What are we going to do when these technologies come to the fore? We know one thing that is certain with technologies: it reduces the number of workforce. Now, that is going to aggravate the situation. It's going to bring to pass very fast the prediction, the forecast that says come 2030, we'll be looking at epicenter of poverty in Africa. And regrettably enough, one of the forecasts is Nigeria becomes the poverty head center of the world. So this conversation is a way that we want to use to jumpstart this very critical conversation to say, yes, there are ways we can leverage these technologies rather than being at the receiving end. Okay, so what do? We're beginning to think, we're beginning to talk about these very difficult things. It's okay, yes, as these technologies come, we can begin to leverage it and then to shoot us into a very beautiful position where we can take advantage of it, not to lose our workforce and then aggravate the situation. To have this conversation, we have some very seasoned panelists. And before we go into the panelists, we have a friend in the house who will be introducing them. Her name is Dr. Itoro. And now let's listen up for the introduction. Dr. Itoro Imembulu is a director at STECWest STEM Academy, a non-profit education technology provider in Nigeria. She has well over 15 years cumulative experience in telecoms, service quality, strategic planning research, STEM management, monitoring, and evaluation. She has a Bachelor of Engineering in Mechanical Engineering, an MSc in International Business, Energy and Petroleum, an MPhil in Management, and a PhD in Computer Network and Security. Itoro is also a researcher within the Faculty of Engineering and Environment, Northumbria University in the UK, and works with NUSTEM. NUSTEM stands for the Science and Technology Engineering Mathematics, that's a STEM outreach group within the faculty that engages young people and other circle of influence. She has experience working with teams to co-create projects, design of evaluation tools to align with project objectives and project implementations. She's a member of the Energy Institute UK, the British Education Research Association, UK Evaluation Society, IEEE Education Society, IEEE Women in Engineering, IEEE Young Professionals, and the British Academy of Management. We are proud to have Dr. Itoro with us here. Itoro, please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerome, for that introduction. And thank you, everyone, and good afternoon, and welcome once again. Today, we'll be having 5 seasoned professionals, as Jerome has earlier mentioned, and I would like to do a quick introduction. The first person we'll be having is Dr. Eberechi Wally. Dr. Eberechi is the founder and director at Absolute Risk Technology in the UK. Absolute Risk Technology is headquartered in Holborn, London, and is a provider of systems engineering and assurance services globally. He has a PhD in risk management with expertise in systems optimization, systems engineering, and economics of systems. He's a chartered engineer with the Engineering Council UK, a consultant lecturer in systems risk and systems engineering at the Robert Gordon University in the UK. He has authored several technical papers and presented his works on system engineering management in international journals and conferences. He also supports some of the largest infrastructure projects as an engineering management consultant. Dr. Welly is a convener of the Global Nigeria Initiative, which works with international oil and gas companies, Shell, for example, Shell and Nigeria Content Development and Monitoring Board, and the Petroleum Technology Association of Nigeria to promote and establish in-country technology and engineering capacity. Our next panelist is Engineer Chioma Okoli-Chima. Engineer Okoli is the Managing Director of Olivet Cloud Solutions, Nigeria Limited. She's an enterprise solutions engineer with over 18 years experience in software development, digital marketing, and vast experience in cloud computing and ERP implementation. She holds a Bachelor of Engineering, a bachelor's degree in electronics engineering from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and a master's in information technology with numerous IT certifications. The Engineer Chioma is also she's also certified by Google, Microsoft, SAP, Sage, HubSpot, Facebook, and she has assisted many other vendors. She has assisted over 6,000 small and large businesses, educational institutes, and government agencies to implement innovative solutions. And she is the founder of SME Business Clinic. She's a member of many professional associations, including the Society of Women Engineers, Nigerian Society of Engineers, Nigeria Institute of Management, Association of Professional Women Engineers of Nigeria, National Society of Black Engineers, Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, and the International Association of Engineers. Our third panelist is Dr. Justin Omalson. Dr. Omalson is an associate professor of instructional technology at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln in the United States of America. His work focuses on understanding and expanding the roles that technology plays in educational contexts. Specifically, he works to understand the ways ideologies and implicitly held perspectives constrain the design of learning technologies. His design and development works combines curricular and pedagogical insights with multimodality, learning analytics, API accessible data, natural language processing, and machine learning. And our next panelist is Ms. Winifred Johansen. Ms. Johansen is the chairman of the board at Quantafuels in Norway. She's a senior vice president commercial at Quantafuels Norway and the chairman of the board of Quantafuels Denmark. She's on board of trustees, partner in Africa, and in board of directors at Ocean Oasis. And she has extensive international, commercial, and technical expertise. She has previously worked with sales, business development, and technical validation of subsea control umbilicals. She has also worked with product development in the automotive sector. She holds a master's degree in mechanical engineering from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. She has a master's degree in oil and gas management from Robert Gordon University in Scotland, and she is pursuing an extramural doctorate degree in leadership at the University of Bradford in the UK. Our fifth and final panelist is Mr. Chiko Amadu. Mr. Amadu is the CEO of Chiko Innovators and Consultants in Kenya. He's a faith-driven entrepreneur, author, and investor who believes that all human beings are designed for a purpose and have a destiny greater than themselves and their profession. He has been on the forefront of entrepreneurship and leadership development across Africa and has trained and mentored thousands of the most talented young people through the Young African Leadership Initiative. He's an award-winning innovator and investor and has contributed to growing and selling innovative and impactful initiatives both in Guinea and in Kenya. So I'd like you to welcome all our panelists once again. And before we start, if you have questions, we would like you to drop them in the question and answer section rather than in the chat box. So we will get started now. And first up, we would have Dr. Eberechi Welly. Dr. Welly, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. Thank you for the opportunity as well to share and to listen and to learn. these forums are also for learning for people like us. So I will share my slides. There are very few slides, just to showcase some of the things that we've been discussing, not just in this panel, but in other forums as well. So give me a minute. Okay, so I've taken the liberty to extract some of the learnings that we've recently had, especially in the industry, because my kind of background is oil and gas, but it also cuts across other industries, transport industry, aviation, and a bit on the nuclear side as well, or energy in general. So I've brought some learnings. It's a mixture of learnings, but mostly based on oil and gas, because a lot of the experiences that we have is oil and gas, and what we want to be talking about is oil and gas for the specific listeners today. So I've labeled this the future of work, and I just want to start stimulating or setting the scene by asking a few questions based on some of the research that we've read up on and things that have been written out there. And one of it, if we just take that background to be oil and gas, is there is this research which was done in Q1 in 2020 about the contracts, the type of contracts that are out in the oil and gas sector and how it spreads. So if the objective or the objective of my talk is on disciplines or areas that will be impacted in the future based on what we know to be new normal, but I'll come back to that terminology later. So for the oil and gas, just now, this is kind of the spread that we've seen. This is a global spread. So for the industry, operations and maintenance has really grown in Q1 2020. There are other multiple activities going on. Procurement is quite heavy, 121 of those contracts have been let. Contracts in design and engineering, as you can see, is reduced a bit. You'd expect it to be a lot of contracts let in design and engineering, which basically tells us that the capital investment in new projects has really come down, because that's where the engineering starts, from the start of a project. So there's a lot of investment in OPEX type, operating and maintenance type expenditures. And on the right-hand side, you see that the total value of all these contracts has really dropped 27, 28% in the first quarter. And operators have also, since December, we've been hearing about operators cutting costs, 85 billion so far as well. So this is just setting the scene. It's not all bad news, but it's just to set the scene reality. This is what's out there now. In terms of, there was a poll set out, and how optimistic were people about their future in the oil and gas industry, or about their company and growth of their company in the oil and gas industry. And you see how people are becoming very pessimistic with what's going on now, COVID. And before that was the reduction in oil prices and the price wars. So there's been a lot in the past 5 years that has kind of impacted on the global industry in general. So there's been lots of layoffs. A lot of my analysis or the presentation here is really from the region that we work in, and we spent our experiences in is in the North Sea, and you can see worldwide spending has dropped. And then we also thought, well, it would be good to at least give everybody an example of what we see with operators just now. So this is coming from 3 different operators, and the kind of status just now of the operators. So the kind of things you hear and you read about, for instance, is an operator is cutting down on their crude forecast, cutting down on expenditure, and they're basically planning ahead and saying, well, over time we'll have to cut by 30% until 2050. And then there are operators who have gone into insolvency, bankruptcy, if you like, with major outstanding debts, 25 billion, 7 billion in this particular case. Operators' growth, of 6%, which was projected, and now they've cut down to saying their growth is going to drop, because of the costs. Cost is growing by 17%, growth is by 6%, and that growth was only predicted. An operator, again, oil and gas, intended to spend 1.3 billion and around that for 2020 on their projects, but they've had to cut back down to 2.25 billion. So these are the sort of news you hear, and we just thought best to set the scene by showing some of these case studies. The other set of people we work with, besides the operators, is service companies. And the service companies too have their own issues, their own challenges. And the challenges includes reducing overhead, project support costs. This is another example of 4 different service companies and the issues they're facing just now. You hear news every week about conservation of cash, reducing spend, and this one is quite heavy by 40%, which means people are pulling back, or service companies are also pulling back in line with the operators, reducing structural, rebasing salaries. You hear 20% pay cut across board, from board level to staff level, to junior staff level, and then reducing personnel and furloughing, which is something we see a lot in the UK actually. And so the question is, how do we proceed? So if more than 80% of assets have really cover operational spend, so the things that we have to look into are how competitive can we be then? How competitive can this industry be and survive? And how can we attract investments, and how can we re-stimulate all the activities back again? So these are the sort of questions Oil and Gas UK are asking. This is for the North Sea, but I'm sure this is the sort of questions that the Nigerian oil and gas industry will be asking as well. And I'm sure this is the sort of questions that the US and the Gulf or the Middle East questions are being asked, exactly same questions. How do we then still become competitive in this environment where there's it's more of a triple whammy with all the heats that have been coming in the past 4-5 years? And the answers are quite clear, quite simple. So every time you see these questions come up, you get into these panels, you get into these debates, it's quite simple. 3 key things: collaborations or partnerships, automation, reskill, retraining, retaining skills, or retaining employees with that experience, both old and into the new. So just to keep it short, again, there are some partnerships. Again, about partnerships, there are several partnerships that we can look into, or we've seen some of our clients look into, and they include technology partnerships, finance partnerships, flexible contracts partnerships, where operators, service companies, personnel have some flexibility in the way they relate now. Multiple industry partnerships, and ESG. This is something that in the UK, every conference, I was in the CEO conference last November, and it was all about net zero greenhouse emissions. And this has a massive impact on the industry. I'm sure everybody agrees. So everything that is being done now in terms of capital expenditure investments have to consider ESGs. We went to support a group an operator looking for funds, doing some field studies for them to get the funds. And investors, including major banks, were asking about their sustainability in terms of ESG. So the ESG goals are not, they're no longer high-level international policies. They're here to stay. Investors are, and people spending money are looking at those goals now. So, you know, then you look at the Nigerian context and you're asking, right, what are the risks to existence and how do we move forward? How do we solve these issues? And then you look at the Nigerian context where there's additional challenges to the existing global challenges. Everybody has specific local challenges as well. So, and then you start seeing things like declining exploration activity because oil reserves are, but there's been some improvements and technologies around that, which I'll talk about later. And then this is from NAPE. This is an extract from the NAPE and some of the NNPC statements recently. There's been inefficient contracts and procurement awarding process or processes. This is pure Nigerian risks to existence for operators in Nigeria and service companies. Oil theft. There was one research that showed that oil theft between June and July 2019 has gone up by 115%. That's a big challenge for any oil operator or operating company. Illegal refining is something that we all know about, and that's another big issue. So solutions to all this needs to come from skills, from people, skills and technology, and collaborations from my previous slide. Procurement and contracting cycles in Nigeria is also about 36 months on average, which is a big challenge for any business, both big and small, especially for small companies. And security, it's another challenge. Last week, a very close company to ourselves, there was some security breach, and they lost a few people to some of these things. So, and how you solve these problems are really down to, again, collaborations, automation or technology, and reskilling. So, for instance, for security, a lot of remote monitoring, remote work, which is happening and expanding in the UK, even without the security being that much of the issue. So just going back to these disciplines, offshore in the UK, these are the sort of disciplines that over time, as you can see, 2010, 2014, you can see the activity levels. 2018, you can see all the activity levels and the disciplines that are involved. So where the technology then comes in is that all these disciplines, maintenance teams, drilling teams, electricians, production teams, mechanical scaffolding, a lot of the manual type work or work that requires, that is quite iterative, will all be automated. And there's a lot happening just now, and we are involved in some of them as well, providing technology platforms or digital platforms. And if you look at the offshore personnel, you can see contractors, service companies, and operators, and you can see the levels. So you can see quickly that there will be with the automation, there will be an impact on, if there's an impact on people going out to the platforms or going out to sites. You can see quickly that the contractor will have an impact on the contractor, and as well as the operator. So these are the areas where we think there will be challenges soon. So I know we say new normal or next normal, but you see the language is changing gradually over time. So we have old normal, that's what it started off with, and it applies oil and gas or any industry. Then there was the new normal by McKinsey in 2006, and then there was the next normal. But I think this is our decade of never normal. nothing is going to be normal. This is transition state. So we keep moving, and there will be a time series of starts, stops, restarts in the industry. So when we meet with some of our clients, these are the sort of questions they're asking. And we ask them to help deliver solutions. Is market demand, can your customers still pay? Restarting supply chains, restoring capacity and capability, non-contact commerce. Commerce is mostly about doing things virtually. And then the big question for a lot of the industries, including oil and gas, is business continuity. It's not enough to just have a 10-year plan. 2050 is already in sight in a lot of the plans our customers are having just now and discussions. So a new mindset change, and then risk reduction covers a lot of these things, which my time is going, so I can't really cover all of them. So that is my simple presentation. And during the course of this discussion, I'm happy to take questions and answer some of your questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Welliver. Thank you so much for that. That's really very interesting. I would like to say once again, if you have questions, please put them in the question and answer box, and we will take them after we've gone through panelist sessions. So the next panelist that we're going to have on is Engineer Chioma Okoli.
Okay, thank you. So I said I won't be going through all the changes that have happened in the work 80s. That's the future of work industry. But I will be going directly to look into the software industry, the IT industry, what has changed over time. What are relevant skill sets that we'll need this time around in order to keep our work? Yes, in order to keep, that's the 10 skills for the future workforce. I'm going to also look at the key drivers. What is actually causing these changes? What is the driver when it comes to the global digital marketing and software industry? What is causing? So I'm going to dwell a little bit on the future of work. I'm actually dwelling on the IT, global digital marketing and software industry. What has changed in this industry? What opportunities do we have? And what is causing the change? I was asked also to look at opportunities that users or our audience today can tap in when it comes to the digital marketing. Over time, you'll find that everything is now digital. I remember way back in the last 4 years, I'm bringing it down to Nigeria in the last 4 years, where we will approach businesses for automation, for e-commerce deployment, and they will say, no, we wouldn't want to accept payment online. We will not want to do this online. But over the past 4 years, 5 years, you find out that e-commerce, automation of business processes, people adopting enterprise software has been on the rise. And what is it saying? Skills to support this new key drivers in the business and enterprise world are on the high side. What are the things driving the change? Things driving this change. There is a rise of smart systems and machine. Smart systems and machine. I was in Abuja Airport the other day and I saw something very interesting. The deployment of robots. Now that robots are there, meaning that majority of people doing manual and tasks will be laid off work. Robots replacing them. These are the key drivers, the rise of smart machines and systems These are the future work. Okay, another thing is the computational world, the new media technology. Everything is on the rise when it comes to e-commerce, when it comes to digital marketing skill, when it comes to programming. There is a need for this skill, thereby increasing the chances for those that can acquire them. And one thing good about our own industry is that you can work from anywhere. Yes, does COVID affect us? Yes, but not like in other industries that there is adverse effect. The fifth thing causing the change, you look at what is driving the change so that you position yourself for the future work, both for organization and both for the end users. Structured systems. Everyone is now looking at the new technology, the social media platform, driving the structured systems. These structured systems is creating another, like the doc said, is creating another form of normal, or what is, we won't say it's normal now because there is changes coming up every day. Now there is a need for global connected world. Need for global connected world. People are everywhere, like we are all connected, hearing each other from different places. Over the last 6 to 8 months, the rise on collaboration tools, the rise on the usage of collaboration tools, aiding businesses, reducing costs in running businesses. Even in this pandemic, the collaboration tool was one of the things that helped businesses survive this time. So these are basically the key things causing the drivers, yes, affecting the future work, or you can say that's going to affect, is already affecting because we are transiting. For we in the enterprise world, you will find out that in the last 3 months, the deployment of cloud solution was high compared to what we have sold over the last 6 months. And these cloud solutions are replacing manual processes in organization. It's replacing manual processes in organization. So for anyone now, those connected to us in this webinar, what should be our focus? What should we do to retain our work? What skill sets should we go for? The future skill sets. I have looked at what is disrupting the shift, what is reshaping the workforce landscape. Now, what are these new skills that can help us position ourselves very well? I brought out 10 skills. We're looking at the future skills. Social intelligence, ability to be able to connect with others, ability to be able to direct with sense and simulate reactions, social intelligence. There will be a very big need for analytics, business, digital analytics, data analytics. People now want to see it and analyze data. So this is the 10 future skill that on the high rise, there is a great need for them. I'm going to still list some places we can go and acquire these skills. Analytics. People want to analyze data. People want to see, business owner want to see decisions. Who is looking for them? Keyword people can use to reach them. Number of people looking for their product and services in a particular area. Analysis, analyzing of data. So Acquiring skill in the area of analytics will help everyone position him or herself for the future work, Remember the theme of our today's presentation.
Thank you very much, Chioma. Thank you. And before we take questions from your section, we will run through with other people, other panelists. And again, please put down your questions and we will take them as we go along. And then Chioma could come back and we will talk about the skills, more about the skills. So we will get into that. Our next panelist is Dr. Justin Omalson. So Dr. Justin, if we will take that.
Thank you. I will share my screen. Also, if you would like to follow along as we go, I am adding to the chat the URL for the presentation. This is a Google slide presentation and the editing is turned on. So if you make a change, it will change for everyone. So with that in mind, there's a few interactive slides that we'll get to. So I'll give a second for folks to navigate there. I will also share my screen for those who might not be able to access it. Okay. So thanks for letting me be a part of this panel. And if you need to contact me about anything, there's my email. So the oil and gas market looks, according to Business Wire and Berkshire Hathaway, looks to expand their AI investment by almost double in the next 5 years. A lot of this comes from Internet of Things costs going down. This was a study, or this is an article that was put out in April. So this is COVID related or in the times of COVID. Also, Deloitte published a one-page like a map for executives. And in this, they mention, and I just pulled out 2 key points, consider the crisis, if the crisis can be used as a catalyst to rethink how work is done. And we heard some of this from Chioma, such as accelerating the adoption of digital capabilities. And also determine what the future of work will look like and align talent strategies for the new environment. Okay, so those links are there. That's a 2-slide way to say data science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning are paramount in this time and in this sector. So how does one acquire this relevant skill set? Averici talked about reskilling. And so how does that work? Well, it depends on your goals, right? If you're level 1 and you just want to understand machine learning, AI, and data in your life, if you want to understand the potential of these technologies in your field, maybe that's level 3. If you want to become a data scientist, maybe that's level 8, probably more like 18. And then what if you want to become a machine learning engineer? Probably level 89. I developed a course to support students with minimal backgrounds in programming to work toward at least level 3 and get ready for something that might approximate level 8 or move you in that direction. But let's get philosophical for a moment. With the 5 resources on the current slide, you could conceivably get to level 89 and become a machine learning engineer. Resources online are excellent for learning about AI, for learning about data science, partially because the folks that support this, you'll notice on this slide, IBM is prominent. We've got Michigan, Imperial College of London. Many of them offer these courses at an extremely low rate, often free. You can get the Coursera course for free so that you can get familiar with their tools. Because if you are in the oil and gas sector and you get used to using IBM's Jupyter Notebook, you probably will continue to use it in the future because of that familiarity. So there are ways into this field and this sector that may not require a large, resource allocation for you starting this learning process. The problem is, well, let me ask you, is your life already quite full? Does it feel like this? I often say that if you're not feeling overwhelmed, you're probably not participating in the culture. This makes it extremely difficult to learn. When you're feeling overwhelmed, what you want is you want somebody to map out how things are going to go, how you're going to learn the things, how are you going to get to level 89 or level 8. If you're going to add something to your overflowing life, chances are you'll want it, probably need it to be predictable and linear with a clear time frame on your return on investment. This looks doable, right? This is probably soothing. Become a machine learning engineer in 5 easy steps. Something you can sell to yourself in terms of, starting that process, and is also the promise of online learning for reskilling. But what if I told you this was the experience of getting to level 3? Or this to getting to level 89? How does that fit into your very full life? A life that needs predictability and efficiency. Pathways to durable learning, learning you can apply in your sector, looks a lot more like this. This type of learning is interactive, collaborative, constructionist, iterative, heterogeneous, and effort-focused. You can watch, we can go back to the Coursera slide. You can go back and watch the Coursera videos and do the small activities and have a very linear approach to having a sense of what's going on. And it's a great way to start, but it's not going to translate directly to understanding the field as a whole and having a lot of experience interacting with it. Things like my course, which is linked here, has interactive components, and there are a lot of resources. It's sort of a tangle of resources. This is the curriculum map for that course, but this would be more accurate. This just reduces anxiety. This is probably how it looks and how it feels to have taken the course. So how do you approach gaining knowledge and skills in these fields? Primarily, my findings support embracing the intersection of what you know. So if we go back to slide 17, domain expertise. Most of the folks here, many of the folks here have domain expertise in oil and gas. So using your domain expertise and starting to get a sense of computational thinking and computer science, if you're new to it, AI and data science is a way to sort of find where are the connections. So point 4 and point 5, ways that these areas overlap. Sorry for the dead air. In education, it's called wait time. And it is an excruciating thing to wait and see what will happen. And we've got a few people writing things down. I'm happy to yield my time for now and come back to what people have said and wrap up if there's time. So thank you. I'll yield to Winifred.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me just get my presentation ready. And that will be, okay. Getting from where Jason left us, I'm going backwards. To go forward, I'm moving backwards. As mentioned in my introduction, I'm a researcher in leadership in crisis. In that presentation slide, we see this gentleman who we assume is not in worship position, stick his head in the sand. This is what I'd like to call leadership by ostracism. Jason did mention how non-linear the world is, okay? In this situation, what we are seeing is this person does not have access to his surrounding. The head is in the sand, which means he's not able to see what's around. He's not able to process information. He's not able to communicate. In that head in the sand position, you're not able to make decisions, and you cannot act, you cannot evaluate, you cannot accomplish anything. Is that what we want in our leaders? Or is that how we are as leaders? I'll take you to what my research is teaching me lately, crisis. I think you can all read what's on the screen, but what I have to say is we are not new to crisis, except we're constantly and chronically unprepared. We have had crisis since the beginning of time. And we have crisis every single day in different ways, in different capacities, yet they often catch us unaware. Are we going to have crisis for the future? Yes. So I may be the one to destroy any vision that COVID will end and we'll go back to a normal. There is no normal. We are always in a state of crisis, one way or the other, and some crises are just starting, some are growing in the background, undetectable, to pop up as major crisis. Others will come instantly, could be a terror attack. Others are already what we are going through. So we have to be prepared and we have to be skilled for what is coming. So what is crisis really, and what is the future crisis going to be? That is a question that we need to ask ourselves. And again, the world is not linear. It is volatile, it's uncertain, it's very complex, and it's ambiguous. And the more it changes, the more crisis is also going to change. We are no longer in a single setting. We are now in a global village, which means that one crisis in one part of the world is no longer an isolated event. We are already one village, meaning that we are going to be affected by events and crises in different parts of the world. The world is so interlinked right now, technologically, financially, economically. Just look at how we are on this panel. We are sitting on three or four, I think we're on 3 different continents right now, and yet we are interlinked having one conversation. And what does that tell us? That the borders that we had in the past, the boundaries that we had in the past no longer work. And this new crisis we are going to see and are seeing in the future, they're going to be more difficult to detect and control because of the interlink that we have. We have diseases that are possibly on the verge of outbreak, which have not yet been detected. And how disease moves from one place to the next, from one continent to one country to the next, is so seamless right now. So the natural boundaries and borders that we draw across our countries, around our countries and our organizations are actually irrelevant for crisis. Future crises are transcending borders of all sorts. Borders no longer exist, okay? And these crises we can no longer handle them as within a border situation. Transboundary crisis, as we call, there's a crisis that transcends boundaries of all sorts. These require transboundary solutions. So we cannot sit back and say, I am solving this problem in the context of Norway or in the context of the US or in the context of Nigeria only, because it is a global problem and cannot be handled that way. So what are the examples of what we expect to see? Cybersecurity could be one of them. We've recently seen a surge in activity in ransomware industry being attacked. We have seen diseases. We've we're seeing changes in the climate. Rain patterns are changing. We're getting heavier rains. Sometimes we're getting longer dry spells. We are getting bigger storms. Recently, the Horn of Africa had a locust invasion, which is actually a result of more rain. And the locust destroyed, of course, a lot of arable of what was being grown, and that may lead to famine. So we are constantly in stages of different crises that are coming, and we have to be prepared. These threats are new, and we are not, and we don't know them very much. So if we get back to what we are talking about, yes, there's the future of work, but what about the future of leadership? What kind of skills do we need in our leaders or in us as leaders to make sense of the signs of crisis? That's what we call crisis pathogens. You know, when you're assessing a situation, the anomalies, how do you link them to create a picture that helps you to understand that we will be in crisis? And when that happens, how do we develop mitigative solutions or ideas to control or to reduce the impact of potential crisis? What is our disaster preparedness plan? You know, and how do we? And there will be crises we cannot control and we cannot change. They will just run over us. You know, for example, a big major storm. We cannot control that, but we have to build resilience in our society. As leaders, as potential leaders, or as people looking up to our leaders, what is it we want? What qualities are there that will help promote this societal resilience so we can go through the storms like we are going through COVID right now and still get back a stronger, a better society? Now, if you look at leadership in all its essence in this chaotic situation, in a volatile situation, as is the world today, plenty of uncertainty, leadership requires decision-making, action-taking, evaluation, making sure that, you know, we are keeping up with the times. What that really points us to is that leadership is actually a high-risk operation. But normally we don't treat it like that, do we? How many would walk into a plane knowing that that the pilot doesn't have a flight certificate? Or would you lie on a surgery or accept to have an operation carried out by somebody you know is not fully qualified? No, you would not. But yet again, we do not place such specifications on leaders, particularly the elected ones, the policy makers. This may make me very unpopular with with some people, but I think we need to start looking what qualities is it we want in our leaders to face these challenges, to move us to the next level. Okay, before I go, okay, let me go into that. If we look at who our leaders are in industry, I would take the African context, for example. Now, most of us on this program, we are doctors or we're aspiring to be doctors, and we've got MBAs. We're qualified to our teeth, basically, because I think that's the programming that we have, that to be a leader, to grow, to have this splendid career, you need a master's, you need a PhD, you need this education. Yes, education is great, it's fantastic, but what this formal education, these MBAs are giving us, they're pushing us in the direction of, yes, you have to understand the finances, you have to understand marketing, you have to understand, but wait a second. In the dawn of time and through history, we have had fantastic leaders who had no MBAs. They didn't even know about MBAs, but still they made fantastic decisions that carried us forward in history. And that's what brings me to to the main focus of my presentation, the non-technical skills. These are skill sets that we really need to look at going forward. Now, what are non-technical skills? I think some of you call them soft skills. And the proper definition is that the cognitive, social, and personal resource skills that complement the technical skills and contribute to safe and efficient task performance. if we look at leadership as performing a task, it really is a task, and it's a high risk operation. We need those skills. Now, I'm African, and I'm my daughter of Africa, very, very proud of it, immensely, immensely proud. So I will start with the African context and give an example of there and now to explain the map that you have in front of you about leadership and the non-technical skill sets that are out there. With the outbreak of COVID, there was a cultural practice in the north of Uganda, the Acholi people. They had a practice called chasing the spirits. In that context, the COVID was an evil spirit. So what you do when you chase a spirit, well, you bang pots and pans at sundown till everybody is aware that there is an evil spirit, and until that evil spirit disappears, do not visit each other's homes, do not touch each other, and limit contact. And this was highly criticized by the modernists as spiritually whack and very backwards and everything. Now, if you look at it from a sociological aspect and from non-technical skills, what does that practice tell you? This was a practice that was used in ancient times during outbreaks of chicken pox or cholera or other transmittable diseases. The practice of beating the drums and the pots and the pans was about creating situational awareness, a shared understanding that we are in a state of crisis. We are in a state of an epidemic. We've got a disease on the loose. And until that is under control, do not come to my home. I will not come to your home. When we start beating the pots again, we are good. And isn't that where we are right now with the lockdown? That we are trying to avoid each other, creating situational awareness. You understood what was happening. You communicated a clear-cut message. It is a disease. You created a team feeling. You made sure everybody understood what was going on, and you helped each other to cope with the stress of not knowing. You beat the pots and pans to say, hey, this is a novel situation. We do not know it, so until we know it, we are in the same pot. It is togetherness, and that was a shared decision. You do not come to my house. I do not come to your house, to control a disease. And it worked effectively. Now, if we fast forward to where we are today, things have changed. Now the village has changed. The tribe has changed. We are a global tribe, which is fantastic in so many ways, but it's also dreadful in so many other ways, because situational awareness becomes complex. It changes. I think Chioma talked about social skills. Social skills, yes. In a situational, how do you create situational awareness? We have to communicate. How are we communicating? Communication has changed. We are communicating across language barriers, across national barriers, across religious barriers, and it is difficult. So we do not share the same situational awareness. What we see as grave in one place, somebody else may not see as grave. And that makes the reaction or trying to get a solution as a village more difficult. So going forward, communication skills are very, very important. Language skills are very important. And I'm going to give you an example on communication and language. During my negotiation days, I sat through a negotiation with one colleague in Paris, a colleague with me in Oslo, and another in Lagos. And for that moment, for about 10 minutes, I just observed the negotiation process. And all these are legal professionals, very, very good at their trade. And in my silence of 10 minutes, they were at each other, completely, practically screaming at each other, until I stepped in and said, gentlemen, A is trying to say this. B is trying to say this, C is trying to say this, and what you're actually saying is, you're saying the same thing, and you all agree. But the problem was, they were all, and it's not a problem, they were all speaking English, but different accents, just slight accents, meant that these three highly learned gentlemen sharing the same profession misunderstood each other completely. So how are we going forward? Our leaders, or us as leaders, need to make sure our communication is crisp, is clear, is well understood. The intention must be transmitted so that the receptor can understand. If it's a crisis, is it understood as a crisis? If a decision has been made, has that decision been understood well enough? And then we're a team now. There is no organization now that's not international. And look at us, we are on this panel together. What can I say? The global team is more complex. Cross-cultural awareness is very important. Social skills are very important, because when you're communicating across and working in a team across your own language or across your own cultural setting, you have to be aware of these things. Is it okay in this culture to hug? Is it okay to, do we shake hands? What do the customs say? How do we address each other? These are all very important skills that we are not discussing in management school, but we should be looking up. And if we look at the context of the COVID, and let's go back in the industry. Several research has been done to look at the causes of accidents. This is in oil and gas, in aviation, in surgery, in medicine, high-risk operations. And most of it come down to human error. It's not the technical skills that are missing. It's misunderstanding in communication. The teamwork didn't work well enough. That's how you end up with the scissors stuck in your stomach. Coping with stress and fatigue. Now, the new crisis that we have, like COVID, change the way we work. They create stress at so many different levels. Many are stuck at their homes, homeschooling their children, trying to maintain their deliveries to work, trying to support family members that are living far away. It is a stress. It's a personal stress. It's organizational stress. It's team stress. Stress at so many levels. And we will face crisis on and off at different levels: personal crisis, professional crisis, national crisis, pandemics. Coping with stress and managing fatigue will be very important going forward. And that is, how do you put that in your daily life? I mean, if you look at the medical professions now, they've been at the front end. They work double, triple shifts. I don't think some people know if they're coming or going. And this usually works well in a setting where, oh, sorry, I've been asked to use full screen. I wasn't using it, sorry. This works very well in a setting where, it's a short-term thing. For example, a car crash. The medical team know that they are supposed to be in an emergency for a short time. But with crisis like this, the duration is much longer, which means that they're in stress for much longer, and that's something we need to work with. So coping with stress. And then I'm supposed to wrap up, my time's up. Decision making. Decision making is vital for any form of leadership. But know that the decisions that are being made are not perfect, because situational awareness is changing. What is current at 9 in the morning is not current anymore at midday, and it's old news by 12. So learn to make decisions in the midst of chaos, but know that you will be crucified for those decisions. There's a bit about sense making here that I want to stress before I leave you, and that is, do not assume that everybody has understood what you've understood, because we all make sense of the situation differently. We see the world through different lenses. So what you're looking at as a super crisis may not be a crisis to somebody else. And do not assume that your leaders are poor because they've made a certain decision. They're sitting on information that you don't have, and they have background information that you do not have. So some references from my research, and you can contact me later. I think the summary of what I will have to say is, be prepared for a turbulent future. There will be crisis, but the good news is that throughout crisis, there are so many opportunities that come for new skills, new jobs, and new opportunities. And speaking mainly to us Africans, we are the best survivors on the planet. We will survive on anything. We are resilient, so let's rest with that. And please develop your non-technical skills. Learn a language. If that's the only thing you do, try to communicate clearly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Winifred. Thank you for those directions on how to navigate during this period and post this situation. Before we take more questions, once again, please put down your questions in the question and answer session, and we will take that after we have our next panelist, Mr. Chiko Amadu. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. It's a great honor to be amongst this distinguished panel. I've learned a lot from each and every one of you. I thank you very much. I wanted to start this conversation around the mindset. And I think Winifred also opened up that avenue when she spoke about leadership. And I believe that we cannot achieve anything without a certain level of personal leadership. And so resilient entrepreneurs, I believe, make resilient industries. And when we talk about an industry being resilient, oftentimes we only look at the economics of it. We don't look at the individuals who actually make up these businesses and these industries. And so what I wanted to do is speak to those out there who feel like this is a transition. This is a moment of their life where they feel like maybe I was doing something that I wasn't very passionate about. Maybe I was doing something that wasn't linked to my purpose, my divine purpose, the reason as to why God put me here on earth. Or maybe I could do better somewhere else. I could do better doing something else. And I hope the little ideas and insights that you get would allow you to have the courage, the motivation, but also that resilient mind that will allow you to not only make that change, but also sustain it. Because at the end of the day, the results are in the long term. So I wanted to share one thing which I think is primordial in everything is purpose. In everything we do, we have to know why we're doing it. Why are we here as individuals? Listening to people, sharing their experiences, their data, their knowledge, the years that they've spent, doing something that they love or doing something that they don't love, but they were very good in it. And so they're sharing that with you. Why are you here? Why would you spend an hour and a half of your time to learn about the future of work? It's certainly because you want to be able to use this knowledge to transform your own future, to think about your own future. What type of work do you want to be able to do in the future? Who do you want to be in the future? And so I believe that our purpose should always be about humanity. How do we serve humanity? So when you leave here today and you start asking yourself, of all these things that I've learned, what's the end goal? The end goal should be, how can I use this to be able to be of service to humanity? And if you're of service to a lot of people, you definitely will be able to make a business that is profitable. You'll be able to launch an initiative that is successful. You'll be able to make an investment that can bring in above average returns. And so that's where I think the mindset needs to start when we think about the future of our work, our future in work as an individual. When you think about how these things are changing my life and my work, where will I be in the future? It's important to know why are you here today? What is your purpose on earth? What were you born to achieve? And that is something that doesn't change in the midst of crisis. That's something that actually reaffirms itself in the midst of crisis. In the midst of crisis, we get to know even more why we're here on earth. The second thing is a concept that I use a lot in coaching and with entrepreneurs that I work is about the personal ecosystem. And here you have 7 different elements that actually define who we are and what drives us, where we're stuck in life, what are the challenges that we're trying to overcome. It's oftentimes in one of these different aspects. And so what I often challenge people to do is to evaluate yourself in these different aspects from 1 to 10. 1 being I suck, it's terrible, and 10 being it's so well that I can help other people. Because if you look at it right now, what's happening is across the world, people have lost their jobs. So their financial situation is not doing very well. Their professional situation is not doing very well. And then because a lot of leaders, very ambitious people, high achievers, we often identify ourselves to our profession. And so immediately that our professional world is not doing very well, we then end up having, ourselves being stressed. So our personal relationship with ourselves also suffers, which can lead then to stress, ulcers, heartaches, which can also have a problem in our physical life. And then that can also affect our relationship with our friends. So when you evaluate yourself, you realize that some of your aspects of your life are actually doing very well. And those are the ones that you need to focus on when you think about the future of work and the future of what value and contribution are you going to do, whichever industry you're going to choose to continue in. Either it's the same industry that you're in, or it's a new industry that you're going to go in, or it's one that you've been passionate about, you have the skills for it, you have the knowledge and the networks, and you've been thinking about this may be the right time for me to venture into this space. You want to focus on your strengths, you want to focus on the things that are working well for you. And then there's a tool that we all use, which is the SWOT analysis. I think every person in business or in profession, we always work around the SWOT analysis. There's another type of analysis, which is called the SOAR analysis, which is more positive because it doesn't focus on your weaknesses or on the threats in your environment, because those are already evident. I think today we've all been able to see what are our weaknesses, what are our vulnerabilities, where we lag behind, what are the addictions that we have, what are our frustrations. We know that already by now. What we need to focus on in the midst of a crisis is actually what will boost us forward, what will keep us motivated. So those are your strengths, right? What are the things that are unique to you that you know how to do extremely well, better than anyone else, and you can apply to a particular industry and move that industry forward in a way that you're achieving a vision that you yourself have established. Not that you are a victim of the environment, things are changing and then you also change with them. How can you be a change maker within a particular industry that you know your strengths will be well applied to? The second thing are the opportunities that exist to you uniquely, either because of the geography that you're in, either because of the knowledge you have, either because of the networks you have, either because of the other opportunities that you've been exposed to. You should also think about your aspirations. I often project myself 100 years in the future. So I go to 2120 and I define what is the legacy that I want to be able to leave behind? What is the impact that I want to be able to make? What are the type of books I want to be able to write? What do I want my future grandchildren and grandchildren's grandchildren? What values will they be born with because of the life that I live? And then I come back to 100 days. What are the things that I need to do in the next 100 days so that I can be able to achieve that goal? So when we think about the future of our work, some of us or certain people will not be having a job in the next 100 days. They know it. Some people will not even want to stay in the job that they're in the next 100 days because of how toxic the environment has become. As she said earlier, you have a poor leader in a business, they're gonna, even if their economy and their economics are doing very well, they're gonna drive the business down because of how they're gonna treat their people, because of how they're going to behave in the midst of the crisis. So your aspirations need to be very clear and very focused on how you can use your strengths and the opportunities that exist to you to be that person that you want to be remembered for. And lastly, the results, because it's all about results. How do you execute and what are the metrics to measure your progress? How do you know that you're making progress? How do you know that you're achieving your goals? How do you know that your vision is becoming a reality? I wanted to share these things because without the proper mindset, I invest in businesses in East Africa and in West Africa, and I've seen in so many different cases, it's about the mindset. You can have someone who has all the knowledge and all the skills, but if they have the wrong mindset, they're going to fail. So in the midst of this crisis, I encourage you to have a mindset of a winner. Have the mindset of someone who's going to thrive. Have the mindset of someone who, at the end of this COVID-19, you'll be amongst the millionaires, the billionaires, the people who offered value, who made this situation into something that other people can benefit from. But always think about the value you bring to a bigger number of people. I have, let's say we have someone who's interested in going into agriculture or healthcare. And then you think about the millions of people in your city that you can be able to help. There's no way you can come up with an idea that can solve the problem of 1 million people that will not make you successful in the next 5 to 7 to 15 years if you're focused on that project. So several industries I want to go over very quickly as I was asked by the moderators to just share with you what are the easy wins that some people, especially those who are at the lower levels of life, they've lost their job, they have to restart everything from scratch. You have to look at all these industries as, yes, they are competitive. Yes, you can hear that there's many people doing it, but in the midst of a crisis, because people don't have the right mindset, people don't compete. People are not competitive in the midst of crisis. People are fearful in the midst of crisis. People are doubtful in the midst of crisis. So when you go into that industry with strength, with motivation, you wake up every day thinking it's day one, you will be able to win. You will have the opportunity to win. So you need to go out there, if it's in the health and nutrition sector where you have your skills and you have your passion, you have the knowledge, and it's linked with your purpose and your vision, you can start an online fitness program, and you'll be able to develop your own nutritional supplements that you can sell to people. It's possible. If you focus on it for the next 3 years, you can start a business now, find a way to make it profitable, and then it can be able to grow because more people are going to be focused on their health moving forward. So I'll go quickly. People need to eat. And each and every one of us here eats every single day. We eat. And there are particular things that we eat on a day-to-day basis. And I invest in businesses that serve, the lowest end of the population. So if I look in a country like Kenya, where the population eats spinach every single day, I want to invest in an agribusiness that produces spinach every single week to sell it to them. And anywhere in that population, every time that people need spinach, they know they can find it from that farmer. If you know, for example, that more people are going to be, think about their health and what they eat, ginger, beekeeping, and honey, because in the future, you're going to see more people who are going to be drinking more potions and more nutritional supplements, things that are going to keep them healthy. Seeds. Farmers will always need seeds, so those are things to invest in. So you look at what people consume, what you consume on a day-to-day basis, and how you can go backwards in the value chain and be able to offer that service consistently. Food processing, very quickly, baby food. People, we've heard of cases of many girls getting pregnant across different countries in Africa because of these lockdowns. Those girls, many of them are going to have babies, and those babies are going to have to eat. And so it's important to think about that from an economic perspective of how you can be able to enter those markets. We talk about animal feed because people love to eat meat. Repairs. People have very little money, so they're not going to spend money buying new cars or buying new TVs. They're going to be repairing the things that they have. So if you're passionate about technical stuff and you know how to build, these are industries, these are spaces where you can be able to try. So I'm going to end there. I thank you very much for the opportunity to share these ideas with you. And one last thing is, it's always about your mindset. If you have the mindset of a winner, you know the purpose that God put you here on earth for, and you have a clear vision, and you pursue it relentlessly and with focus and ambition, you will succeed in the midst of this crisis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chico. Thank you to all our panelists for all your insightful feedbacks. There have been some recurrent themes I've come across from the different presentations, that definitely the way we work has and will continue to change, and it has transcended different boundaries. And some of the things that one can do has been mentioned, things around collaborations, partnerships, need to reskill, need to upskill, being resilient, and the need for self-evaluation. So it has come across the different presentations. And before we go into the question sessions, I would like each of the panelists, maybe within 1 minute, to kind of like provide a summary on what workers and business owners can do to future-proof their professions and businesses. And how can they survive in these current times with this new normal as it lingers, or if it continues to linger? So could we start with Dr. Wali? If you could provide a summary.
Yeah, I'd presented earlier about 3 bullet points I gave.
Mm-hmm.
Solution to where we are now. And it's not philosophical, it's pure engineering solutions. It's having partnerships, and I presented some of those typical partnerships that you'd expect: contractual, commercial, or finance, technology partnerships. We've supported a lot of that with our Global Nigeria Initiative, with NCDMB and companies like Shell, in terms of directing, not finance only, but directing knowledge into the industry in Nigeria. And also automation is quite key. Justin has provided a lot of background to how you get into the machine learning, AI type technology. And then There is the reskilling, which Justin also talked about, and I showed some charts on the skills, about 10 skills, and where the operator sits and where the contractor or service company sits. So I talked about the skill set, maintenance skill sets, drilling guys, people who will potentially be impacted, not just by, and I showed the slides going down, by the COVID, but eventual future. So, with reskilling, and those skill sets can be reskilled. They can retrain and for what Choma called the new automation or cloud computing or whatever else in those technology areas. And there are digital platform builds every day. So digital transformation is key. So any way you can tag on to digital transformation, that's the way forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Winifred, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, I just want to round up by saying, look at crisis from the lens of warfare, guerrilla warfare. You're going to war, know the situation, situational awareness, process information, know your field, know your enemy, know the battleground, be prepared, and then communicate with your team. It's teamwork all the way. Make decisions. Nothing gets done without decisions. And don't wait for the perfect decision to be made, for perfect situational awareness. It does not exist. You make decisions, you might make mistakes, but you evaluate your actions as in any guerrilla attack. You know your casualties, you regroup, you dust yourself up, you get out there. It's guerrilla warfare, okay? And it's hard work. It's hard work, very, very hard work. But to respond with tactical advantage in any warfare, it's hard work. My grandmother used to tell me, God help you born poor. But if you're born poor, lazy, and stupid, God have mercy. That's what it is. That's all I have to leave you with.
Okay, thank you very much, Winifred. Dr. Omalson, apologies again that you weren't able to finish your presentation, but is there any last words that you would like to leave with our participants before we go into the question and answer session? Dr. Omalson?
Yes, certainly. I've shared my screen. I've got 3 slides and 42 seconds to wrap up. So when you look at this picture, which of these people is better equipped to learn? Most people say children, but adults have clear advantages over children. But there's one thing they lack, and that is their relationship with time. Kids have lots of time, adults don't, or at least adults don't think that they do. So particularly with this, as adults, we have taught ourselves to make lists and make progress. This is good. This is how the world works. But living your relearning or reskilling life like this, like it's a game show, will work against you. How do you make progress? You've got to think about your focus on engagement more than on, okay, now I know X piece of knowledge. If you're engaged and iteratively engaged with the process, you'll make progress. There are a wealth of resources in order to do so, but changing your attitude towards reskilling, your approach to it, is key.
Okay. Thank you very much. Engineer Chioma, do you have anything to add to that?
The only thing I will add is that the business owner, you're asking on the end user for those that are employers and employees. So for business owners, they should try to create, it's a trying moment. It's not just on the one side. They should try and create an enabling environment to retrain, especially in the skills, the IT automation skills, because that's the way to go, to see that a lot of people are moved into the sequence of the future work On the other side of the workers, you need to go for skills. I'm going to be sharing in the slide a resource where you can get a lot of IT skills free. So that's what I'm going to, that's just my contribution.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the slides will be available on the website. But let's have a final word from Chico, then we'll go into the questions that participants have raised.
All right, I want to emphasize on mindset. I really appreciated once more Dr. Winifred with the warfare mindset. I think today, especially for entrepreneurs, I'm speaking specifically to entrepreneurs, if you're not seeing this situation as an opportunity to win, as an opportunity to win ethically, as an opportunity to bring your ideas to the market in a sustainable and profitable way, you're going to miss out on this opportunity that has never happened before. Well, it's happened, maybe not in our generation, it's happened before. But more people are afraid of taking action now than they've ever been in their entire life. And Dr. Eberechi's presentation also spoke about it. If there's very little design and engineering, it means there's not many new projects. But why are there not many new projects is because most of the people are looking at the data and are afraid of taking action. And they're like, okay, let's wait until things normalize, then we take action. Entrepreneurs don't wait till things normalize. We make things normalize. And so I want to encourage you to have a mindset of a winner and to also understand that this is not a time for passion. This is not a time where you say, well, I just want to do what I'm passionate about. You do what you're good at. It's better in this moment to be good and profitable than to be passionate and broke. Because if you're in the passion business and your passion business is not sustainable, you're going to hurt the market and yourself and your family and the people more than you focus on where your strengths lies, and then you figure out how to make them profitable. You figure out how to make them sustainable in an ethical manner. So that's my encouragement. Mindset of a winner in the midst of crisis. Go out in war and conquer your market.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, everyone. And we have some questions. I will take some of the questions from some participants. The first one is directed, how do we prepare teenagers in Africa between the ages of 13 and 17 for the future of work and learning, especially teenagers that lack internet access? So if any of our presenters would take that. Dr. Eberechi, Wale.
Okay, sorry. 13 to 17-year-olds. I think there was a presentation on I think Justin's presentation was talking about older people or much older people and the kids and the relative association with time. So for 13 to 17-year-olds, I think the fact that they have time counts heavily to how much it's time, and that time means that your brain is even more open. Because I think time and your mind is the mind is open because you have time. There's always this concept of buying your time when you get older. So when you get older, in our own age now, we're thinking we want to buy our time, so we have time to think more. But for 13 to 17-year-olds, I think it's because they have time. And I'm more of a technologist than anything else. I'll say start preparing them with technology-related training. Because in my industry, oil and gas, and engineering in general, the future is in technology. It's in digital transformation, at least till 2030, 2050. Things might change, but that's what we see. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wale. Our next question is directed at Mr. Chico. One of our participant is surprised with the poor state of education on the African continent, and that there are not opportunities in the educational sector to empower the number of youths who have illiterate or no skills. Do you not think that it is a key area for innovation and opportunities to help the continent grow? What would you say to that?
I think education is actually the main sector where opportunities lie. We recently invested in an educational project, and 3 months pre-revenue, we had people who wanted to acquire the initiative. So it's just to tell you that there's enormous opportunities within the education sector, but you have to know who you're targeting. So I look at the most vulnerable people, when we say, but maybe let's say lower middle end of the population. And as most of us know in Africa, the best way to get out of poverty is through education. And so the people who have the least resources are more keen on investing in education in their children, because they know that that's how their children are going to get them out of poverty. That's a social that's social knowledge that you should leverage on, right? The second thing is, if you're thinking about teens and people in university, they actually don't have resources to pay for them to be educated. And so it's their parents who are paying. And if their parents have lost their jobs or have had a pay cut, they're going to reduce that educational budget. And so it's another organization that will have to pay you if those are the people that you're offering services to. So you have to look at it from a business perspective, that there's different customer segments in the education sector. Which ones do you want to be able to serve? Who is going to pay for the solution that you're going to offer them? And then spend time with them. Go in their homes, go see what people are doing right now. I'm currently in rural Kenya. And it's been so fortunate to be here, because I was here on a sabbatical, and then there were the lockdowns, and I got to see how the devolution, because it's decentralized, the economy is decentralized. You get to see that Nairobi, the way things are happening in Nairobi, is not the same as it's happening in different parts of the country. And so when you think also of education, you can't just look at education from your city. Look at education from other parts of your country. If you want to solve problems for people in university, which ones, right? Those in public university, those in private university, those who don't even think of going to university, but still want the same knowledge as what they would get in university. So it's one of the biggest sectors to invest in right now, not just because of the pandemic, but because of those social beliefs that without education, you cannot succeed in a poor country. And so people see education as a way out to their future. And many of us, if it wasn't for the investments that our parents made in us, we wouldn't be where we are today. And so they were investing that because they knew that if they didn't do that, we would be just like everybody else. They gave us a competitive edge. And so that's what some of you need to bet on, that there are some parents who are willing to pay for solutions for their children. And so you have to find a way to package a solution that they're willing to pay, they're able to pay, and that is sustainable for your own business.
So I think a follow-on question to that is, where do people find those opportunities so that they could also even pass it on to where these skills are needed, and the youths that would need this?
Is there someone else who would want to contribute, or is it back to me?
Well, I can contribute a little there. With this, with the pandemic, we've seen growth in homeschooling, and again, Africa is where we embrace new stuff. Nobody does WhatsApp like we do, and there are lots of available links and resources that are being shared that can be used as parents or as to educate yourself. Lots of links on access to free learning, like the likes that Dr. Almondson mentioned, and lots of universities that are making scholastic material available online. So it's just tap into your networks and tap into our contacts as well. I'm happy to share the different links that I have.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's some of those links will be put up on the website. All right. Then there's a question. There are a couple of questions for Engineer Chioma. So you talked about the different skills that will be required, and some of our participants want you to do a recap on the 10 skills that are needed. So if you could do a quick recap on that.
Thank you. As I was saying earlier, virtual collaboration skill, all of us are connected from different locations. You've seen several organizations deploying virtual solutions, collaboration skills. Most of the times when they finish buying those skills, they keep asking, do you have someone that can manage it for us? So virtual collaboration skills are on the high rise. Digital marketing skills. Now everybody wants to come up. Every business, every brand wants visibility. And you can see the high rise when it comes to the e-market. People buy things online and it's being delivered. No one wants to come in contact. There is a high rise on the e-training. So what should be our focus is what is causing the drift and the skills. If there is a drift in the normal or in the way we do things, to acquire skills in the new way everyone is shifting to. The third one is cloud computing skill. For we as organization that deploy cloud, in the last 4 months, we've sold cloud solution like we never sold in 6 years. One thing keep coming up, who can manage? Do you have Microsoft certified cloud architect? Do you have Google certified cloud architect? So you find that you keep looking for those skills. Why many people are still sitting at home, not on job. So these skills can be acquired. The new media technology, BI and analysis. As I sit here, I can analyze and tell you what people are looking for in Ikeja. How many people searching for these services? Keyword they're using to search is a time of business intelligence and analysis. So for people that have such skills, they will be on the high rise. Data management skill, as people are deploying solutions, there is a high rise of data. How is it managed? Security management skill. I'm talking with respect to the software and IT industry now. So deployment skills. These are skills. I put a link where you can actually get certified, get trained, become Google certified personnel. All these skills are needed as the drivers are shifting everyone towards that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. So there's a question. So what can African governments do to protect the population from job losses due to the emerging innovations and disruptions?
Okay, do I continue with that? A little bit contribution on what the government can do. You find out that many governments in Nigeria, I'm just using Nigeria, are now coming up with a lot of youth programs and how people can acquire skills. As many are being led off job, entrepreneurship is the way to go. And as we are looking at what we can do, we should look at, there are industries now that are very, very enterprising and profiting. The cleaning industry, because everybody is conscious of hygiene. The food industry, people are buying, people are still eating, and everybody wants to eat right now. So there are so many industries. The IT industry too is a good place. Someone can want to start up something. So I don't know if the panel is any other person, but this tree industry, very, very interesting. Entrepreneurship is the way to go, because a lot of organizations shutting down, a lot of organizations laying off people. There is know-how. It's a global problem. So entrepreneurship is the way. So government is giving our loan, and there are so many programs going on now as we speak. Yes, even the banks trying to empower women. Yes, FCMB is empowering women now. The Access Bank is doing a program now. Enugu State Government, the Enugu SME Clinic invited me to train youths in Enugu, and government will give them loans. So there are so many programs going on at the moment. Thank you.
I would like to add something to that. Going back to Chico's presentation, it's about mindset. I think we need to start getting off the white collar mindset. If we look at the needs right now, we're at the bottom of Maslow's pyramid. We're going to need to eat, we need security, we need clean drinking water, we need healthcare, we need shelter. These are where the opportunities are. The opportunities are not in the next big job in an office. And unfortunately, this is the awful truth for a lot of Africans out there, is that we are so stuck up in the mentality that success means you are wearing a suit and you are in an office. And so you miss out on the opportunities that come in situations like this: food delivery, food production, provision of clean water and medication. And again, going back to dependence on governments, it's fantastic if the government has programs to support, but stop waiting and relying on the government, because for most cases, you're going to be disappointed. So I think it's in the mindset. Trim your mindset. You're in this for you. You need to change your mindset for you. Grab the opportunities for you. Do the situational awareness. Know your market. Respond with tactical advantage. See the opportunities that are there. And the beauty of a crisis is that it turns everything upside down and opens up opportunities that we naturally would not have seen.
Okay.
My 2 cents.
All right, thank you. So we will take one last question, and every other question will be responded, will be answered, and the responses will be put on the website, www.majorwavesenergyreport.com. So if your questions are not answered here, please check back there and you will find responses to your questions. This question, just before we take the final questions, we would like each and every, after the final question, we would like each and every panelist to give 1 point or something they would want the participants to take home. So before we take that, this question goes to Justin. What are the reliable platforms to learn data analysis and possibly social intelligence?
I'm happy to take the first part. Maybe Chioma can take the second.
Okay.
Reliable platforms. Learning Python would be very, like, you understanding how to think about data and seeing it from a critical perspective is the most important. You can have technical skills and learn how to solve problems, but if you can't ask the question, which problems are worth solving and what are the implications for solving this problem, you'll end up, well, you can see how our society ends up, because we teach science and we teach engineering as someone else puts a problem in front of me and I solve it. And it's not my job to decide if it's worth solving, if there are better problems I should think about, or how I should approach it. So with that said, I would say start with Python for data science. There are lots of packages for it. There's something I mentioned before called Jupyter Notebooks that works really well. And then approach it in an elliptical fashion, where you're not trying to decide that you have mastered it immediately, but think about what are you interested in? And then how would you plot that? So as Chico mentioned, spinach farming, if you can get the data for spinach farming for the last 10 years, you can start playing with that data and exploring that data with Python and an add-on package called Pandas as a way to start unpacking it in an area that you know and you care about.
Okay, so what would you say is your major, what should be the major takeaway from your perspective for the participants today? Dr. Omosi?
I think pretty much what I just said. Learn how to solve problems and use technology to do it, but also remain critical and discerning about where you want to place your efforts. And then, to the extent possible, try not to teach learning these technical tools like a game show, because it will work against you. Try to block some time and say, for the next 30 minutes or 90 minutes, I'm just going to explore. And if you're always, it's important to ask yourself, what did I learn? How am I learning this? But if you ask yourself, what did I accomplish in that whole rhizome of learning, the answer for a long time might be not very much. So give yourself a pass on that and think about, how would you approach this if you were 13 and had a lot of extra time? That's how people get into things. They're like, okay, well, I can dive in and not worry about what the return on investment is in the immediate. Think longitudinally.
Okay. All right, thank you. Chioma, still a bit on that question and your final takeaway. What reliable platform for social intelligence, and what would you want the participants to take away?
Yes, I shared a lot of resources, both in Google platform, IBM platform, where you can learn social intelligence, business analysis, yes, and data management. In the resource that will be shared with them, they will see a lot of resources are put together where you can freely learn.
Okay.
Yes. My takeaway today is we just have to keep a good spirit. Yes. Everything, whatever the crisis or the pandemic or what has affected the future of work, don't approach it with fear, but approach it with the spirit that I can do all things through Christ who gives me the strength. And you can. Just tell yourself you can. Have a plan and work towards that plan. You will achieve it. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you. Mr. Chiko Amadu, if you'd like to follow on with that for a final takeaway for the participants.
Yes, I think the mindset again is where I'll end. You have to have a winning mindset. You have to have a positive mindset. And that's just about repeating to yourself and having the conviction that you are capable of doing something great in the midst of adversity. I think each and every one of us who have spent our time to share, and also those who are listening, we have gone through hard things in life. We have overcome difficult circumstances to get to where we are today. And those are battle marks. Those are the things you should look back on and inspire yourself to move forward. Because sometimes you will be the only person who has a positive outlook. Sometimes you will be the only person who sees the light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes you'll be the only person who has the Spirit. Sometimes you're the only person who believes that Jesus is by your side and things are going to work out. And in those times, look back at your past and how you overcame challenges. How you overcame challenges in the past. That same individual who overcame it in the past is going to overcome this one as well. So we encourage you to really believe in yourself, to look at your future, to project yourself 100 years. Look at your legacy. If you start thinking about your legacy, your problems of today are nothing. Think of the legacy you will leave behind. Think of how this world will be a better place because of one thing that you did. And once you have that one thing in place in your mind, go out there and execute it like a winner. You know, that this has to get done. I have to get this done. And I have to get people to support me in getting this done. And it will work out. It will work out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Dr. Welly, last words for the participants and takeaway that you would like them to have. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, 1 minute. Yeah, so when I did my presentation, I showed a few bullet points, and one of them was on the mindset. Everybody's talked about mindset, which is brilliant because I think we're all on the same page about the mindset. The other thing, this is about business continuity, because that's where we kind of operate at, is how to support operators and service companies keep moving forward, mostly based on technology. The other thing is the risk profile. The operational context is COVID. It's low cost. However, it's how we build confidence, even in spite of uncertainties, and that's also driven by technology. And we've got two very good presentations on technology here by Justin and Choma. And then the next thing is about vulnerabilities. For those vulnerabilities, in every context in life, you've got to find barriers to them. We've got to find a way of being resilient enough in our business approaches. And I talked about those partnerships, gave some examples, 5 or 6 of them, of partnerships to build resilience. And then there's also operational models and the economic climate as well. So those are all the things that I'm hoping people can start considering. Not to think that the oil and gas or any industry you're in is dead because of the situation now. There are always business models coming out of these situations constantly. People are making money. People are doing well constantly. And also you've got to understand your dependencies as a business. So what I want people to take away is that those dependencies are quite key to succeeding. Suppliers, customers, supply chain, the logistical aspect of your business. Those are really, really key for this environment just now. And there are flexible contracts between operator, service companies, and the personnel as well. So contracts have got to be flexible to move forward. And the key consideration when we sit with CEOs and when we sit with executive level personnel to have a discussion about how we support them with our platforms, it's about the least cost, but being compliant. So the industry we work in is very heavy on compliance. So it's how you deliver compliance at the least cost using technology. So that's what I want people to go away with, is that these things are possible, even in this never normal, I call it, not new normal. It's a never normal transition-based system we're in just now. It keeps going. We don't know when it'll end.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Johansen, so would like you to give the final takeaway.
Well, I've talked about the importance of social and cognitive skills, and this will carry you forward in whatever line of business you are doing. If you're going into trade, people buy from people, and nobody wants to buy veggies from a grumpy seller. And I like to leave you with a quote that I find very meaningful. It is in giving that we receive. So what is it you're giving? Are you giving clarity? Are you giving clear communication? Are you giving good decisions? Are you giving comfort? Are you giving opportunity? Because whatever you send out is what you're going to receive. So again, positive mindset, take the mindset of a gorilla and know that this is warfare. You're in it to win. See the opportunities so that you can act with tactical advantage. And if you fail, analyze the situation, or even if you win, analyze the situation and go back in there. Every day is a new day. And with crisis, you have lots of opportunities coming. So see where the gaps are, identify, and then you get in there and don't let go.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our panelists. It's been very interesting, and I hope you have all enjoyed it. I will pass it on now to Margaret.
All right, thank you so
Great
much.
moderation from Itoro. Thank you as well.
Thank you, Itoro. Thank you so much.
That was really, really amazing. Like I could sit here and not even think that we are 2 hours gone, into this, because we are all saying things that are relevant, that people want to hear. And I can see we have been busy at the chat room. A lot of people have been communicating and enjoying your session. And it would just be like, okay, to go on and go on because we can't finish it. But we have to end here, and it's been a wonderful time with all these brilliant minds here. This is the future that we're seeing here. And you guys just provided these answers to people. And I am hoping that people will go back home today, I mean, in their quiet times, and then be able to extract the information from this webinar and be able to use it. So it's our joy that at the end of this webinar, you are able to apply all that you've heard. So I've heard a couple of people asking questions about the slides. The slide will be sent to every participant here. Every registered participant will have slides, and the video will be sent. The recording session will be sent to you so you can use and internalize. So some of you who are already playing with Dr. Omar Singh's link, you can just go ahead and keep diving into it. Keep doing it, because the thing about technology, you have to continue. You have to be consistent at it. But like you said, do not pressure yourself. Just go ahead and fiddle with it and know what you can do, because, I mean, like all the speakers have said, the time has come. We are in the future already. We cannot run away from it. Winifred said, fight like a gorilla. Chico said, have a positive mindset. Dr. Welly said, you just need this technology that can help you build sustainable business. It's not going to go away, but how will you use technology to solve it at the least cost possible? And Chioma, you have been like very, very popular on the side of the chat room, because everyone wants to know the 10 bullet points that will take us out of this situation. And you've been gracious enough to provide that clarity. And I just want to say to all our participants, we are going to have this link posted on the website, www.majorwavesenergyreport.com. It's not there yet, so don't go start searching for it now. We are going to post it after the session. And also, we are going to be answering some questions. I think some of the questions have not been answered. And if you check the question box, some have been answered on the back door. I want to thank our panelists, Dr. Omar Singh, Dr. Eberichi, I think Chioma also. Those of you who have been putting answers at the back door, answering the questions from behind. Thank you for doing that. I mean, we have lots of questions that are yet to answer, 15 questions in all. So we're going to send these questions to the panelists. They will provide answers. You will have them with the links at the on the website, so that you can also, be able to get answers to your question. And it's been wonderful conversation all along. I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for allowing us to share in your own knowledge and expertise. We are here to build the next generation. That is what we stand for. We want to be that platform where the next generation can climb on. Just like Albert Einstein said, that if I become anything in anything, it's because I stood on the shoulder of giants, right? We want to stand as that shoulder, and you all have done a fantastic job in becoming that shoulder for everyone here to stand upon, and I really, really want to appreciate you. Thank you for the concept of the ostrich, Winifred. We need leadership at this time more than ever, and thank you for showing us the way. And thanks, Dr. Omar Singh, for sharing your knowledge and your technological slides, data analysis, Python. I know what that can be for some people, but thank you. And I believe that the more we get and dive into it, the better we get at it. Thank you so much, Dr. Welly, for that great insight. I mean, the risk is there, but the way you take on the risk and believing that it's going to work, it's just going to work fantastically. Thank you for speaking to that. Thank you, Chioma, our social media digital marketing guru. Thank you for all the points that you've raised, and I am very sure people will still come back talking to you about cloud computing and everything that we need to. We need more information on this. We don't have 2 hours is not enough to share everything. And I totally agree with you guys. We don't have enough time, but we are believing that this will start up the conversation. We are believing that this will begin the process. Now that we start talking about it, people are now aware of it, and then it will go on. Itoro, you have been a fantastic moderator. I mean, I cannot just start saying much right now, but you have been wonderful, coordinating all these brilliant minds together. Thank you so much. And I want to say at this point in time, this is where we draw the curtain, and I'm just going to pass it on to Mr. Jerome to close it up for us. Thank you very much.
All right, once again, I want to say thank you. Thank you, Toro. Thank you, everybody, all the panelists. The conversation has started. We don't own this conversation. We just hope that other bodies will begin to replicate the same thing. We all can't just fold our arms and wait on government to do everything. So we believe that as you have devoted your time without any pay, okay, to do this for the African continent, others also will begin to replicate the same thing. As the conversation becomes front runner, we're going to see the multiplier effects. More people are going to skill up, more people will skill up, and then these foreign technologies will become part of us. And like Choma said, once people get skilled in certain areas, next year they can get jobs. So we want to see these jobs here. That is what it's all about. Once again, thank you for everything. So for attendees, do look forward to the slides. We'll be sending them across to you and all the necessary links that you need to use for the next action to these discussions. Thank you, everybody. From me and from Major Waves team, it is bye for now.